The following video has been produced by third-year DPT students for an academic practicum. As with any exercise program, there may be risk to participation. Please make sure you consult with your physician and/or physical therapist before beginning this program. Thank you. Welcome to Adaptive Yoga for Neurological Conditions. Today we'll be going through a 40-minute yoga sequence involving both standing and seated poses. If you use any adaptive equipment, including braces or orthoses, please leave them on for the duration of the yoga session. While this is intended to be an exercise program, please take the sequence at your own pace, pausing and rewinding the video as needed. We will begin our sequence on the floor. Erika will be demonstrating the poses in the purple and will be performing the yoga poses in their traditional form. Brenna, in the pink, will be demonstrating the adaptive versions of some poses in order to improve safety while still accomplishing the same goals of the pose. Let's begin. Starting on your knees, we will come into child's pose. Sink your hips back towards your feet and place your arms out in front of you. You may feel a stretch throughout your back in this pose. Begin to quiet your thoughts and be present in the moment. We'll stay here for 10 breaths. Nice big inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Take these breaths at your own pace, trying to make the length of your inhales and exhales the same. Focus your mind on the mat. Start to become aware of your surroundings as you take another deep breath in and out. Try and set an intention for today's practice, whether that be to hold a pose longer for today or just stay more present throughout the practice. Whatever you may choose, try and keep this intention in mind to help you through this practice, through both the easy and more challenging poses. On the next exhale, bring your hips forward and come onto your hands and knees for tabletop pose. Your back should be flat, with your wrists stacked underneath your shoulders and your knees directly underneath your hips. Take one more breath here. On the next inhale, we'll round our back to come into cat pose, filling our bellies with air. As we exhale, we'll drop our chest towards the mat. Chin rises towards the ceiling to come into cow pose. We'll do a few more cat-cows at your own pace. Inhale, rounding the spine, and exhale, dropping the chest towards the mat. With these cat-cow poses, we're starting to loosen up our back, as well as coordinating our breath to our movement. We'll do one more round of cat-cow, and we'll end in a neutral spine back in tabletop pose. As you return to tabletop with a nice flat back, try and activate your abdominal muscles. On the next exhale, reach your right arm forward in front of you. Take 2 breaths here. On the next inhale, return your right arm to the ground, keeping that flat back with your core engaged. Take 1 breath here. On the next exhale, we'll take the same position on the left side, reaching the left arm forward, keeping the back flat. We'll take 2 more breaths here. Bring the left arm back to the ground. At your own pace, we'll take your arm reaches 1 more time to each side. 2 breaths with each arm. Now we'll return to tabletop. Keeping the nice flat back and your core muscles turned on, we're going to now reach the right leg back towards the back wall. Imagine that your heel is kicking back towards the wall. If you feel unsteady in this position, feel free to keep the toe touching on the ground for balance. If you do take this modification, still be sure to keep your core engaged and your back nice and flat. Return the right leg to the ground to come back into tabletop position. Take one more breath here, and on the next exhale, reach the left leg back. Again, take 2 deep breaths here in this pose. Bring the left leg back down, and at your own pace, at your own breath, we'll repeat the same pose, 2 breaths to each side. Once you have completed your leg reaches, come back to tabletop. We'll take another breath here. Next, sink your hips back down towards your heels to come back to child's pose, the first pose of the practice. Take this opportunity to check in with yourself. Repeat your focus if your mind has started to wander away from your practice, and remember the intention that you set for today. Take another deep breath here. When you're ready, bring your hips forward to come back into tabletop. We're going to now transition to our standing poses. Begin by stepping your dominant leg towards the side of your hands for a modified low lunge. Take 1 deep breath here, and on the next exhale, step the other foot forward so that both feet come together. If you are experiencing balance issues, you may leave more space in between the feet for some support. Arms can reach down towards the floor for balance if needed, with a slight bend in the knees. Take a moment here to be aware of how your body feels in our first standing pose of the day. How does this feel different than the seated poses? On your next inhale, rise to stand in mountain pose, palms of the hands facing forward. Take 2 breaths here. On your next inhale, circle your neck slowly towards the right and continue all the way around until you've made a circle. After coming back to center, take 2 more neck circles in that same direction, warming up the neck muscles and loosening up the upper part of your spine. Once you come back to center, complete 3 neck circles in the opposite direction. Make sure you're taking your time with these circles and really feeling the movement as you come all the way around in a circle. Once you've completed your neck circles, return your head to center and come back to mountain pose. On the next inhale, reach the arms overhead towards the sky and then out over to the right side of the room. You may feel a stretch opening the left side of your body. Take 3 deep breaths here. With every inhale, imagine growing taller towards the sky, and with every exhale, reach deeper to the right side. Return your arms back to center. We'll now take that same pose to the left. Again, inhale growing taller, exhale reaching further off to the side. Try to keep that in mind as we complete 3 more breaths in this pose. Bring the arms back to center and return to mountain pose. On the next breath in, bring both hands behind the back to support the low back. Slowly look up towards the ceiling and arch your back as we come into standing baby back bend. If your arms are uncomfortable in this position, bring them into the W position, with your palms facing front taking the same pose. Leading with the chin to look up, extend your back to form a small bend. Take one more deep breath here and return to mountain pose. For the next set of poses, we'll make our way to the wall for support. We'll start in a modified version of the pose downward facing dog. Erika will be demonstrating the traditional version of the pose on the floor. For the modification that Brenna will demonstrate, take 2 steps away from the wall and place the arms overhead onto the wall. Push the hips backwards, elongating the back. If comfortable, you can continue to take a few steps away from the wall to lengthen the pose. You can use 1 or 2 arm support on the wall. We'll take 3 deep breaths here. With every inhale, push your hips further back and up, and with every exhale, sink deeper into the pose. On the next exhale, lift the right leg off of the ground, keeping the hips squared so that they're both facing towards the ground. If needed in this pose, the toe can rest on the ground slightly for improved balance. We'll take 2 breaths here. On the next deep breath, we'll bend our knee and open the hips for a nice stretch on the front of the hip. Make sure to keep your core engaged in this pose. On your next breath out, bring the right leg back down to the ground, coming back into downward facing dog. On the next exhale, we'll lift our left leg off of the ground. Again, allowing the toe to touch on the ground if needed for balance. 2 more breaths here. Then, when you're ready, bend your knee to open up your hip, rotating the hip up and out. 2 more deep breaths here. Return the left leg back down to the ground to come back to downward facing dog. How does this downward facing dog feel different than the first one you did today? When you're ready, walk the hands down towards the feet to come into a forward fold. We'll rest here for 5 big breaths. Keep a slight bend in your knee and a nice relaxation throughout your spine. Let the arms hang heavy and allow your body to fold forward. On the next inhale, slowly rise to stand to return to mountain pose, unfolding the body as slowly as possible and coming into a nice tall mountain stance. On the next inhale, step forward with your right foot, keeping the front knee bent and back leg straight. Keep your body facing forward. Take a deep breath in and bring your arms up over your head to come into Warrior One pose. We'll be here for 5 breaths. Really try and reach your arms up to the sky and maintain strength in that front leg. On your next breath, pivot your back foot so that the arch of your back foot bisects the heel of your front foot. Pivot your body and extend your arms out in front and behind you. Your front knee stays bent and the back leg stays straight. Keep your core nice and engaged and try to stay as stable as you can as you come into Warrior Two stance. On your next deep breath in, slide your back arm down your back straight leg, bringing your arm overhead for Reverse Warrior. Try and reach for the ceiling and elongate the side of your body. With each inhale, reach a little bit higher for the ceiling, and with each exhale, sink deeper into the pose. Bring your arms back to Warrior Two and reach your front arm forward and down towards the ground for extended side angle pose. You have the option to keep your front knee bent or straighten it, whichever you prefer. Continue to reach towards the ceiling through your top arm, opening your chest to the side wall. On your next breath in, return to standing and pivot your feet to face the side wall. Bend your knees slightly into a saddled position for goddess pose. You want to try to push your knees outward and try to engage your glute muscles. We're going to be here for 5 breaths. Slowly straighten your knees and pivot your left foot to the back wall to prepare for Warrior One in the opposite direction. Bend the front knee, making sure the knee does not go over the toes, and take a deep breath in to bring your arms up to the ceiling. Your back leg remains straight. From here, pivot your back foot again so that the arch of your back foot bisects the heel of your front foot. Pivot your body and extend your arms out in front and behind you. Your front knee stays bent and the back knee stays straight. Keep your core nice and engaged and reach your arms out in front and behind you as long as possible. On your next deep breath in, slide your back arm down your back straightened leg, bringing your front arm overhead for Reverse Warrior. Try and reach the ceiling and elongate your side body, putting as little weight as possible into your back hand. With each inhale, reach a little higher for the ceiling, and with each exhale, sink a little deeper into the pose. Bring your arms back to the Warrior Two position and reach your arm forward and down towards the ground for extended side angle pose. Once again, you have the option to keep your front knee bent or straight, whichever you prefer. Try and open your chest and get a nice stretch on the front of your body with this pose. Bring your arms back up to the Warrior Two position. From here, bring the legs back together to come into Standing Mountain Pose. Standing in Mountain Pose, extend the crown of your head high towards the ceiling and root your feet down into the ground. Place your left hand on your low back and bring the right hand across your body to come into a spinal twist. We'll take 5 deep breaths here. With every inhale, grow taller towards the sky, and with every exhale, take the twist just a little bit deeper if you're able to. Come back to center. Then, sink the hips down and back like you're sitting in a chair, squatting down into chair pose. arms have the option to reach overhead. Keep the glute muscles engaged, core muscles on, and keep a nice flat back. We'll take 3 more breaths here. On your next breath in, we'll come to stand and take a spinal twist to the other side. Place your right hand on your low back. Your left arm reaches across the front of your body to come into your twist. We'll take 5 deep breaths here. Remember to lengthen the back through each inhale and twist deeper into the pose with each exhale. Return back to center. Take a deep breath in and let it out, sinking the hips back down into chair pose. Remember, arms reach up overhead and you sink your hips back like you're sitting into a chair. Keep the core muscles engaged here. Keep going, you're doing great. On your next breath in, rise up to stand into mountain pose. At this point, we'll make our way back to the wall to take a modified downward facing dog. Remember for this pose to push the hips back and up towards the sky, keeping a nice flat back. We'll take 3 deep breaths here. On every inhale, try to push the hips higher towards the ceiling, and with every exhale, settle into the pose. On the next exhale, lift the right leg off of the ground to come into 3-legged dog. Try and keep both hip bones facing towards the ground. If needed, the toe can rest on the ground for balance. Remember to breathe. On your next deep breath, we'll open the hips, rotating the right hip slightly. Take 2 more breaths here. On your next breath out, return the right leg back to the ground to return to downward facing dog. On your next breath, lift the left leg up towards the ceiling, again allowing the toe to touch the ground if needed for balance. 2 more breaths here. Keep the core nice and engaged. When you're ready, bend the knee to open up the hip, rotating it open to the side. Take 2 more breaths here. Return the left leg to the ground to come back to downward facing dog. 2 more big breaths here. How does this downward facing dog feel differently than the ones at the beginning of the practice? On your next deep breath, walk the hands towards the feet to come into a forward fold. We'll rest here for 5 big breaths. Allow the arms to relax, neck to relax, and allow the blood to move from your feet through your spine down towards your head. On your next inhale, slowly unfold, rising to mountain pose, 1 vertebrae at a time, your neck coming up last. On the next inhale, step forward with your right foot, keeping the front knee bent and back leg straight, coming into Warrior 1 pose. Remember, take a deep breath in to bring your arms up towards the ceiling, lifting through your arms and the crown of your head. Keep strong through your back leg. On your next breath, pivot your back foot and open your arms to come into Warrior Two pose again. Stay strong through those legs and reach your arms out to either side of you. Remember to breathe. On your next deep breath in, slide your back arm down your back, straighten leg, and bring your front arm overhead for Reverse Warrior. Try and reach for the ceiling to elongate the side of your body. With each inhale, reach a little bit higher for the ceiling, and each exhale, sink deeper into the pose. Bring your arms back to Warrior Two. Now, reach your front arm forward and bend down towards the ground for Reverse Side Angle pose. You have the option to keep your front knee bent or straightened, whichever you prefer. Try and keep as little weight in that front arm as you can, reaching up to the ceiling and opening the chest with this pose. On your next breath in, return to standing and pivot your feet to face the side wall. Bend your knees slightly into a saddled position for Goddess pose. You might want to try to push your knees outward and try to engage the glute muscles. We'll hold this for 5 breaths. Try and stay nice and tall through the crown of your head and strong through your legs. Slowly straighten your knees and pivot your left foot to the back wall to prepare for Warrior One in the opposite direction. Take a deep breath and bend the front knee, but make sure that your knees don't go in front of your toes. Keep the back leg straight and bring the arms up towards the ceiling. From here, we'll open the arms again, pivot the back foot to return to Warrior Two position. Try to sink a little bit deeper into this pose. Really reach out with your arms like you're a strong warrior. Make sure your knee isn't going over your toes and keep your core nice and engaged and your back flat and long. On your next deep breath in, slide your back arm down your back straight leg, bringing your front arm overhead for Reverse Warrior. Try and reach for the ceiling and elongate the side of your body. With each inhale, reach a little higher for the ceiling. With each exhale, sink deeper into the pose. For a more challenging balance pose, try to look up towards your top hand. On your next breath in, bring your arms back to Warrior Two and reach your front arm forward and down towards the ground for Reverse Side Angle pose. Once again, you have the option to keep your front knee bent or straight, whichever you prefer. Open up that chest and really try to feel a stretch through the front of your body. On your next breath, bring your arms back up to Warrior Two. Take one more breath in here and step the legs back together to touch. Next, we'll return to the wall for support to come into a modified plank position. Take a step away from the wall, clasp the hands together and rest the forearms or hands on the wall so that your arms are in line with your shoulder. In this position, we want to engage the core and maintain a nice flat back. We'll stay here for 5 breaths. Imagine one long line from the back of your head to your toes. Try not to let the hips sink down towards the wall or up towards the ceiling. Try and stay as flat as a plank. On the next exhale, while keeping a nice flat back, lift the right leg off of the ground. You have the option to keep the toe on the ground for balance if needed. We'll take 3 breaths here. The core should be active. Return the right leg to the ground. On the next exhale, we'll raise the left leg up, again keeping the toe on the ground if needed. 3 more breaths here. Return the left leg to the ground. Take 1 small step towards the wall, straighten the arms, and push the hips back and up for a downward facing dog. We'll take 3 deep breaths here. On your next breath, walk the hands to the feet to come into forward fold. Reaching towards the ground, let the upper body sink down, releasing any tension you may be holding in your upper body. We'll stay here for 5 deep breaths. On the next exhale, step your non-dominant leg forward and bring your arms down to the ground to come up into a modified low lunge. From here, bring both knees back to the ground to come back into tabletop position. The wrists should be stacked underneath the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips with a nice flat back. We'll take 5 deep breaths here to reconnect with your mat. Try making these breaths audible, creating sound with your breath and creating heat in your body. On your next exhale, sink your hips back towards your heels and come into child's pose, reaching your arms out in front of you onto your mat. Think about how this child's pose feels different than the one we did at the beginning of the series. Inhale and exhale for 5 deep breaths. Take your time coming out of child's pose. Bring your legs out in front of you. When you're ready, bring both legs out to the side to form a V with your legs. Try and maintain a nice upright posture here, keeping the crown of your head extended towards the ceiling. From this position, bring your right arm over your head and reach over to the left side, stretching the right side of your body. Take 3 deep breaths here, reaching further with the inhale and sinking deeper into the stretch with each exhale. After 3 breaths here, switch to the other side. Bring your arms back to center and reach forward in between your legs. Don't worry if you cannot get very far. Only go as far as you feel comfortable. Option to use one arm to assist the other forward. Slowly unfold your body to return to upright. Bring your legs back together to touch in front of you and fold once more over your legs for 5 deep breaths. How does this seated forward fold feel different than the standing ones? On the next breath in, slowly return to an upright position with your legs in front of you, unfolding the spine 1 vertebrae at a time. Bending your right knee and placing your right foot flat on the floor, twist your body to the right side, hooking your left arm on your bent leg. Try and reach behind your body with your right arm. Try and breathe deeper into the twist for the next 4 breaths. On the next exhale, switch sides. Slowly coming out of the twist, make your way onto laying on your back. We'll take a few deep breaths here to reconnect with your mat, find your center, and remember that intention that you set for today's practice. On the next exhale, bend both knees and place both feet onto the mat. On your next breath in, tighten your core muscles and lift your hips off the mat to come into bridge pose. Try and maintain your breath in this pose while still keeping the core engaged. Your shoulders should remain on the mat. We'll be here for 5 deep breaths. Slowly lower your body back down to the mat. We'll take a couple of deep breaths on the mat and return to one more bridge pose. On the next inhale, lift your hips up, engaging the core muscles and hip muscles to keep your body nice and stable in this pose. After 5 breaths at your own pace, slowly lower your body down to the mat and straighten your legs. From this position, bring your knees to your chest and hug them in, slowly rocking your body from side to side to roll out your back muscles. On your next exhale, drop your knees to your right side for a final spinal twist, breathing deeper into the stretch with each breath. Return to center and bring the twist to the opposite side, dropping the knees off over to the left. Bring your body back to center and straighten your legs out in front of you in a comfortable position. Relax your arms and your legs as we come into the final pose of the day, Savasana. Gently close your eyes and begin to breathe deeply. In this pose, reflect on the intention you set at the beginning of practice and how this time on the mat feels different than at the beginning. Notice the rising and falling of your chest with each breath and the slowness in your breath as you start to relax your body and mind. Continue to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. With each breath, try and think of the ocean. As you breathe in, a large wave forming, and as it peaks as you exhale, allowing the wave to crash and go back to the water. Deep breath in, the wave starts to form and crashes as you let your breath out. With each breath, feel your body start to relax. Feel your toes and your feet start to relax. your knees and your thighs. Let your hips sink down onto the mat. Notice the rise and fall of your stomach as you let your core muscles relax. Your trunk and your shoulders sink down onto the mat. Let your arms relax, your elbows, your wrists. Let your fingers go with each breath. Let your spine relax, the muscles along your back. Your neck and your head fall deeper onto the mat. Let the muscles of your face, your eyes, your lips relax as you continue to breathe at a comfortable pace. On your next breath, start to breathe some life back into the body that you've just relaxed. Start to move the toes and the ankles. Start to bring some life back to the muscles in your legs and your hips. Breathe a little deeper to awaken the stomach muscles, the back. Start to move your shoulders, your elbows, your fingers and your hands. With each breath, continue to awaken the body, bringing life back into the face, the neck. And on your next deep breath, slowly open the eyes. Take one final deep breath on your mat. As you continue on with your day, try and remember the intention that you've set at today's practice. Try and carry that with you as you go back throughout your day, and remember to thank your body for allowing you to complete this yoga practice today.